An ordinary trip to the market turns into an unforgettable confrontation when an older woman tells a young black man to return to Africa. What he replies not only silences the crowd, but alters everything. The market buzzed with everyday tasks. Shoppers maneuvered their carts among the aisles, some lost in their thoughts, while others whispered softly. It was a bright afternoon in a small community in Ohio, a place where everyone seemed familiar, yet today the normal routine would shatter in the most surprising way. Close to the fruit section, an older woman, likely in her 70s, adjusted, her glasses with a clear air of impatience, grumbling quietly as she reached for a bag of apples. Her worn cardigan and neatly arranged silver hair gave her an unremarkable appearance, though what happened next was far from ordinary. A young black man, tall and casually dressed in a blue hoodie and jeans, stepped up to the same stall to grab a bag of oranges from a nearby display. His name was Marcus. He was calm, courteous, and blended naturally into the busy rhythm of the store. He was busy texting on his cell phone while carrying his basket of groceries when it occurred. The older woman abruptly turned, noticing Marcus, and her look changed in an unmistakable way. Her eyes tightened, and her lips compressed as she declared loudly, "You folks have no business here." Marcus paused, his fingers hovering over his device as he glanced up. She pressed on with a harsh tone, "Why don't you head back to Africa where you belong?" The atmosphere thickened, and several shoppers nearby halted. Some exchanged uneasy looks, while others pretended not to catch the remark. The normal hum of the store stopped, replaced by an uncomfortable silence that dragged on. Marcus's first reaction was disbelief. His brows knit together, and for a brief second it seemed he might instantly respond. Instead, he drew a measured breath, his expression unreadable as he appeared to carefully consider his reply. The woman, still clutching her apples, held her position, unapologetic and unwavering. The tension in the air was real, touching everyone nearby. A young mother quickly guided her child away, and an older man by the potato section nervously eyed Marcus, waiting to see how he'd react. The ensuing quiet was heavier than any spoken words, setting the scene for what was to follow. For a while, Marcus remained motionless, his hand still on the handle of his basket. The space around him narrowed. Every sound in the shop seemed dampened, and every face turned toward him. The sting of the woman's words lingered like an unpleasant odor that no one could escape. The older woman refused to relent, her defiance as if she expected no challenge. She readjusted her cardigan with an audible huff and lifted her chin as if daring him to reply. A young clerk, busy stacking bananas just a few feet away, froze mid-task, unsure whether to intervene or keep quiet, while a cashier craned her neck for a better look. The growing crowd neither advanced nor dispersed. They were now witnesses. Whether they liked it or not, Marcus met her gaze, his face steady, yet his eyes brimming with thought. Countless responses flitted through his mind. He could have lashed out, shouted, or stormed off, yet none of those choices felt right. The pressure weighed on him, yet instead of crumbling, he allowed himself a moment to steady his nerves. He switched his basket to the other hand and straightened his posture as his presence filled the silence. When he spoke, his voice was calm and deliberate, slicing through the awkward air. "Ma'am," he said in a measured tone, "do you truly understand what you just said?" His query was not meant to condemn, but to make her reflect, an invitation to ponder her own words. However, she showed no sign of wanting to reflect. "I said exactly what I meant," she retorted sharply, her voice escalating. "This is my land. People like you simply don't belong here." A young woman browsing near the bread display gasped audibly, and as the soft murmur from the onlookers intensified, Marcus remained composed. He did not raise his voice or step forward. Instead, he allowed a pause to fall, giving her harsh, Words timed to settle in everyone's ears. "Very well," he finally said, nodding slowly. His calm demeanor was disarming, almost unsettling in its quiet strength. "Let's discuss this then, since you mentioned it." The entire room held its breath, anticipating his answer. The impending storm was not the kind anyone had anticipated. Marcus shifted his weight deliberately, setting his basket down with care. His tranquility exerted a pull on everyone, drawing in even those pretending not to heed. His steady gaze met the older woman's, not with anger, but with a serene determination that made her shift uncomfortably. "You claimed I don't belong here," he began steadily and firmly, "but allow me to share something about my origins." Each word carried significance chosen with care. "My great-great-grandfather was born in Mississippi. He was a sharecropper, toiling on land he did not own, breaking his back so that his children could have a better chance. His father, on the other hand, was a slave, kidnapped, beaten, and traded like property to help construct the very country you now stand in." The older woman's lips tightened, but she offered no reply. The crowd, however, was captivated. A man nearby by the dairy case, previously absorbed in his cell phone, set it aside entirely. An elderly couple exchanged murmurs, yet did not avert their eyes. "My grandfather," Marcus continued, his voice steadily growing stronger, "fought in World War II. He risked his life overseas for a nation that treated him like an outcast upon his return. Denied shared spaces and basic dignity, yet he persisted. Do you know why? Because he believed in this country's promise, even when it failed to believe in him." A profound silence draped the room. Even the low hum of the freezers seemed softer. "And my parents," he added, his tone softening without losing its resolve, "battled their own challenges, not with violence, but by working diligently, instilling in me values of kindness, respect, and perseverance. My mother, a teacher, dedicated her entire life to helping children regardless of appearance. My father, a mechanic, was the sort who'd pull over to lend a hand if someone's car broke down." He paused to let the words resonate, his eyes never leaving hers. "So now you imply I should return to Africa?" He shook his head slowly, his voice tinged with sorrow. "Ma'am, I belong to this country just as much as you do, perhaps even more, because my family has paid its dues, in blood, sweat, and tears." The older woman's face reddened as her hands trembled, clutching her apples. She parted her lips to respond, but faltered, her words caught in the throat. Marcus stepped back, remaining calm and unshaken. "I could have left," he addressed the assembled crowd, but what would that have done? Ignorance never improves in silence. It's our responsibility to rise above such hatred, to surpass harsh words. His message resonated deeply, yet the encounter wasn't over. The crowd's reaction would speak louder than any statement. In the heavy silence that followed, no one moved. The older woman's expression became a mix of anger, embarrassment, and a hint of shame. She scanned the faces around her, searching for support, but none appeared. A middle-aged man wearing a baseball cap stepped up and said with a trembling voice, "He's right, we must be better." His words seemed to break the spell. An older woman by the frozen section nodded and said softly, "My father fought in that very war." Her voice quavered as she recalled, "He always believed that the only color that mattered was the red on our flag." The murmurs in the room grew louder. A young cashier, barely in her early 20s, called out from her station, "I've never seen anyone handle a situation as gracefully as that. Thank you." The older woman, now visibly shaken, clutched her shopping cart tightly. She did not apologize, yet the fire in her eyes had dimmed. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and almost pleading. "I did not mean," she began, but then cut herself off. Marcus turned back toward her, his tone now gentle. "It isn't about what you intended," he explained softly. "It's about how your words struck everyone. Words matter, and actions matter even more." A man at the delicatessen started clapping slowly, easing the tension. At first hesitant, others soon joined in, and the applause grew into an undeniable chorus. People applauded not only Marcus's thoughtful words, but also his courage in challenging hatred with dignity. The older woman looked around one final time, her face drawn and pale, then quietly steered her cart toward the exit. As she departed, several individuals moved to comfort Marcus. One woman placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder and said, "Thank you for speaking out." Marcus offered a slight smile as he picked his basket back up. "Sometimes," he murmured almost to himself, "it isn't about triumph or defeat. It's ensuring that the truth is heard." The crowd gradually dispersed, the earlier tension giving way to contemplation. Some people felt inspired, while others were deep in thought, but everyone was subtly changed. The moment had passed, yet the impact of his words endured, leaving a lasting impression as people resumed their routines in the store, now noticeably quieter and more reflective. Marcus completed his shopping slowly, each step measured as he processed what had just taken place. The experience had not shaken him, it had left him introspective. At the checkout, the young cashier who had earlier spoken up scanned his items with a shy smile. "What you said today meant a great deal," she said, hesitating before adding, "People rarely stand up like that with such poise." Marcus returned her smile warmly. "Sometimes poise is the key to breaking down walls. Anger only builds barriers." Outside, as the sun began to set and long shadows stretched over the parking lot, Marcus noticed the older woman in her car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. For a brief moment, he considered approaching her but decided against it. Some lessons require time to sink in, and he had already expressed what needed to be said. That evening, Marcus sat with his father at the dinner table, recounting the events of the day. His father, a man known for his few words, listened carefully, his hands resting on the table. "You did what was right, son," his father eventually said. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone watching. People like her might not change overnight, but you planted a seed. Sometimes all you can do is plant a seed and let it blossom." Marcus nodded, deeply moved by his father's words. He realized that although the encounter had been uncomfortable, it was essential. Ignorance only fades when challenged, and silence simply allows it to grow. Across town, the older woman sat at her dining table, staring at an untouched plate of food. Marcus's words kept replaying in her mind, each one dismantling the barriers of her own bias. She thought about her own grandchildren and the future they would face, and for the first time, a flicker of doubt stirred within her. In the days that followed, news of what had happened at the market spread throughout the neighborhood. People discussed Marcus's response, his bravery, and the dignity with which he managed the situation. It transcended a mere incident. It became a lesson, a reminder of how powerful words can be and the importance of standing up for what is right. Marcus never sought the spotlight for his actions, yet his deed resonated through the community in unexpected ways. Strangers approached him with gratitude and shared their own experiences of prejudice and resilience. His quiet stance sparked conversations that had long been avoided. Even the older woman began to change. It was gradual, but she started questioning the beliefs she had held for so long. She never knew if their paths would cross again, but if they did, she silently wished she had the courage to apologize. These moments remind us all of the strength in kindness, the power in truth, and the resilience required in the face of ignorance. They show that standing up does not always mean shouting loudly. It can be the act of speaking calmly with conviction and letting honesty prevail. To everyone witnessing this, remember, Your words and actions have weight. They might wound or they might heal. They could separate or bring us together. If this account moved you, please share it and help spread hope, courage, and understanding so that together we can build a better world.